podcast. I am so excited for you to meet Julie Thannum, APR. She is a senior strategist at CESO Communications, and I've known Julie for many, many years. You are going to feel a little bit like you went to church. It's Church for School Public Relations Professionals today. We're really talking about the divisiveness that's happening in many of our communities across the country, but it's a message of hope. And Julie really has a lot of strategies to get us back to what we need to be doing, the fundamental storytelling that needs to be happening. She's going to share her 20-20-60 rule, and that's really going to help you as you think about communicating to your school district. You know, for a long time, we were in that informational spot, especially with social media, and now we've got to find our way back to storytelling. She's going to share some very practical tips for maintaining your sanity amid some of the personal attacks or the attacks on your school that can be so personal. And the reason, you guys, that we take it so personally is because we're so dang passionate about our work, and that's a good thing. But there's a balance there. And then the savior for Julie and the savior for me and the savior for so many other people, it's your network. It's the folks that do this work day in and day out across the country, around the world, that are here to support you. And she's going to share some really valuable tips. This is a must listen. This is one that I want you to share with every single person you know that's in school public relations. I want you to share this with your SPRA chapter. I want you to get the link to this podcast, share it in those Facebook groups for your SPRA chapters. It's that important as we think about the 22-23 school year that you listen to this first, okay, as you're planning. Before we get to our tip, we do chat a little bit about our membership program. You guys, Julie's school districts have been involved with our membership group. I love supporting and nurturing and just inspiring the social media efforts that happen across this country and again across the world, because we've got worldwide members a part of this membership group. It's a low annual cost for you to have access to ideas, inspiration, training, and a whole catalog of trainings that have been done over the years, hundreds that are at your fingertips to help you do a better job. And actually, Julie and Susan from CESO are going to be presenting to our group in July. You'll have access to that, whether you can join us live or get the recording. And you guys, July starts a new school year. So you deserve to be supported. You deserve the professional development to help you help your school. This is a great investment. I want you to head over to socialschoolforedu.com, sign up, just ask. The worst that can happen is your superintendent is going to know that you're interested in developing your skills. Okay. The best that's going to happen is they're going to say yes, and you're going to get to join us. So check that out at socialschoolforedu.com. Now let's get to today's quick K-12 PR tip. All right. Today's K-12 PR tip is learning a new tool in your tool belt for this summer. I'm telling you, Instagram Reels is where it's at. I've got great training available step by step in our membership group. And I've got a couple great blogs on my website as well that you can check out. But just a quick tip, if you are looking for more music options, you need to ensure that your Instagram account is set to a creator account. So you're going to go up into your settings, you're going to scroll down to accounts, and then you're going to scroll down to the bottom and say switch account type. You need to ensure that you are at creator account instead of a personal or a business or professional account. Okay. If it doesn't give you the option of creator account, it means you're already there, which is great. But in order to unlock all of the audio options, the music options in Instagram Reels, you have to have your account set to creator mode. Now, if you use an external scheduling tool like Hootsuite, Agora Pulse, Sprout Social, there's a lot of other ones, that those scheduling tools from those third-party softwares may not work with your Instagram account if it is set to creator mode. So if you use one of those third-party modes, which isn't Meta, okay, it's not Business Suite. If you schedule through there, you'll be fine. But if it's a third party, you're going to want to do your reel in creator mode. And then as soon as you're done, just switch it back to your business or professional account, and then you'll be okay. All right. And everything will schedule, and your music won't go away. You won't lose any of that. But every time that you go to set a reel or create a reel, you'll need to set it back to creator account in order to make that work. So that's this week's K-12 PR tip on learn a new tool this summer. It should be Instagram Reels, but that is one of the key things to know so that you can unlock all of those great tunes and audio files. So, all right, let's get to today's awesome interview with Julie Thannum. Good morning, Julie. Welcome to the podcast.
Good morning. How are you doing, Andrea?
I'm doing really well. I'm so thankful to have you. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking to celebrities, and we've got Julie Thannum on the podcast. I met you years ago through NSPRA, and I'm so thankful to be able to introduce you to my podcast listeners. So why don't you introduce yourself, kind of share your background and your current role there working with CESO.
Okay, well, good morning. And started out in print journalism, and I worked for two high-performing, fast-growth school districts in suburban DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth area here in Texas. Very blessed. Didn't even really know what school public relations was when I got started. But as a journalist, I had some of those key tools and skills, and I learned a lot through the Texas School Public Relations Association and the National School Public Relations Association. You'll hear me refer to them a lot because TSPRA and NSPRA are like family to me. And also so many of the other state chapters, and really a lot of our corporate partners as well. And I spent 7 years in my first district. That was in 1990, seems like so long ago. And I built the program there. It was a one-person office, so I understand one-person office in school communications and the challenges that brings. But I also had hands-on learning, and I had an opportunity to see not only myself grow in some of the different skills and things that I learned to do, kind of like trial by fire, where a lot of people feel like they are now. But I also saw the profession grow and change, and I saw new technologies become available. My kids laugh at me when I talk about, when I left my first district and moved to my second district, the internet and having a website was just a new thing. And so I've seen the profession evolve a lot, communications evolve a lot. During my time in my second district, I was able to serve as a regional vice president, president-elect, and president of TSPRA, which is NSPRA's largest state chapter. That was a great leadership experience. I learned a lot, made a lot of connections that would serve me well throughout my career and would become very key. And we'll talk, I know, a little bit about that networking and some of that opportunity that those associations and those relationships bring to us in our roles in school communications. My role evolved in my second district as well. I started out as a public information officer, became a director of communications. My department started to grow. At one point, they gave me marketing, which I had no background in, but I learned so much in the area of marketing. Following Sandy Hook elementary school shooting, I took on the role of school safety in my second district, and I was named an assistant superintendent, board and community relations, and my role really became a lot more of a public role in the community, and continued to build the marketing and communications arms of our program. But really it became about board and community relations, with social media becoming a big part of that, school safety, and our program for school safety as well. I got to serve as NSPRA president during that time in 2016, 2017, an absolutely amazing experience. Got to travel around to a lot of state chapters, meet a lot of our members across the nation who became just like a lifeline to me during the last couple of years. After 24 years in the same community, growing a program, the climate here, the leadership and the political climate changed. It became very divisive. I resigned my position and where some of the equity and diversity work that we were doing, it was not being valued, and there was really a change in the community. I made the decision that it was time for me to try something new. I landed as a senior strategist for CESO, which stands for the Center for Effective School Operations. We have 6 different divisions, and to kind of explain it, it's almost everything but teaching and learning. Transportation, communications, technology, finance, facilities, and now our new arm of HR. We help school districts become more effective in all of those areas so that they can put their dollars and their attention and their focus on the classroom. So we basically work in 15 states. I'm located remotely here in Texas, but I also work with other INSPRA folks and school districts across the nation. We're in 2 countries. We just did some branding and belonging work for an international school in Thailand, and that was very meaningful. And we really enjoyed that work. So it's been an exciting ride. This last year, I've got to continue to help school districts and colleagues, superintendents, walk this very difficult political climate right now, and use some of the lessons I learned and some of the things that I think helped me get me through that last couple of years of difficult time in my community. And so here I am today, getting to sit down with you. We have met a number of years ago, and we as a school district, we use social school for EDU, and we loved our association with you and all the expertise you brought to us in the area of social media. So that's
Yeah.
kind of me in a nutshell.
Oh my gosh, the transitions that you've seen in your years of communication, I can't imagine. Like when you started way back in the early 90s, like email was just coming on board, right?
That's right. Wow, you make me sound so old, but it's so true. In 30 years, it's just evolved so much. And this is what I loved about communications is that, my very first day, I remember walking into this little cubby area, and that's really what it was. It was like a cutout in the hallway across from the men's restroom, if that tells you anything right there. They tried to find a place for me. They didn't really know how to use my position, but I got to grow it. And I was public information officer for an amazing school district. I had great mentors there. The superintendent was like a grandfather to me. He really was. Kind of took me under his wing. He put me in the room with a lot of people with a lot of education expertise. And here I was, a journalist, and I had covered schools, but I didn't really know what a PIO was supposed to do. I had a typewriter and letterhead. And my district at that time did not have email. I did not have the capability of emailing everyone. So it wasn't until I moved to my second district 7 years later in 1997 that I came to a district that had a website, which I barely knew what that was, and also email where I could send messages. And in 1998, I started my first electronic newsletter. I use that air quotes around that. It was basically an email, but I started a weekly newsletter there that is still carried out today and actually grew to be a daily newsletter, if you can believe that. But
Wow. Oh, that's so
lots of
amazing.
change.
Yes, definitely. Okay, I'm going to take a little pause. Can you shut off I hear some like, and so a couple times. So I think it's like your notifications for your like messaging or something, like direct messaging.
Like on my computer, you think?
Yeah.
Wow, now you're going to test me on what?
I wonder do you just have your email open? Do you ever get like messaging through that, or maybe Facebook or something where?
Well, I'm probably getting messages from all over, but let me see. I can't even hear it. I'm so amazed at you. Can I put it on Do Not Disturb?
Yeah, put it on Do Not Disturb and then that'll work.
Okay, I hit Do Not Disturb. I think I'm on that.
Okay. Then we should be good. And if it's not way annoying, but I'm just like, well, if I can prevent it from the rest, then
No,
we'll
I can't even hear it. So, and
Okay.
nothing's popping up. So,
okay. That should
I
work.
realized I said good morning. Is that going to be a bad? You can.
No, I said good morning too. That's all.
Okay.
It's all good. I like the time of day.
Okay.
So it's okay. So now I'm gonna transition.
Okay.
So you have, all of this experience in school communications, and we could talk about a lot of things today, but I really wanted to focus on, the current climate that we're facing. I don't think you've ever seen the kind of divisiveness right now that we're seeing across the country. And I listened to both you and Susan Brott share some tips at one of the recent Sprout chapters. I think we were in Georgia. And so I was really hoping, what tips can you share with our listeners on, really surviving these attacks on our public schools?
Well, I think that public schools didn't change overnight. I think what happened overnight was more of a political change across the country. And I think that we became a kind of a casualty of the attacks, and they became very personal. And I know people say that you shouldn't personalize it, and it's not personal, it's just work. But we are so passionate about our work, and we really do believe in the purpose and cause of public education and serving all children. And so those attacks that come on our school district, they do feel very personal on us. I have never seen it quite the way it is right now. And I got to tell you, not to sound like a defeatist, I'm not sure we'll ever get back out of it completely. I think that people have felt like they have a license to attack personally and to use social media as a means to hide behind the keyboard, so to speak, and become critical and say things that they might never say to someone face to face, especially not someone that you know well and that you care about and have a relationship with. And this is a key point, I think, Andrea, to remember that the pandemic changed a lot of things for us. And in a lot of ways, we found opportunities to communicate effectively, remotely, in ways we never knew before. But we also seem to get away from the face-to-face communication for obvious reasons, for safety purposes. But getting away from face-to-face communication and hiding a little bit behind some of the technologies and not engaging in two-way communication with a lot of our audiences and our key stakeholders. And I see that carrying over. I see people still in their offices hiding a little bit behind keyboards. I see people in their homes doing the same thing. I'm hopeful that as the nation continues to open up and we find ourselves in this post-pandemic world, that we will re-engage in face-to-face communication and in ways that build strong relationships, because I do believe strongly that when you get to know people, we know this through our diversity and equity work, that when you get to know people, that our differences can make us stronger, and that there is value in being heard and being known and building a relationship with someone. They are a lot less likely to share opinions, but also misinformation about your public schools if they are engaged in your schools. And we saw this even in recent bond elections and referendums across the country. It's very easy for people who are not engaged. We spent all this time spacing everybody out. This is just one small piece, but we took pictures of how we had everything spaced out and there were fewer kids in class or no kids in class. And now we came around to election time trying to remind them how overcrowded we are and how we use bond referendums to gain public support so that we can build facilities for kids and explain the fast growth when they have not been in our schools for a couple of years now. They've not been there for awards ceremonies and come to the school for lunch with their grandkids or get engaged in the community through activities and theater productions and things like that. I'm hoping as we reopen across the nation, we also re-engage in real authentic relationship building, because I think that will make the difference to get us back to a little bit better climate and culture for supporting one another and listening to one another's ideas instead of attacking them.
Yeah, you bring it back to the R in public relations, right? And it's all about relationships. However, when it is so divisive, how do you build those relationships with those people? I mean, and you've been through it and have had to try to do that. So what would you say to somebody who's like, okay, this person is yelling at me in a school board meeting, and how am I going to try to build a relationship with them? What would you say?
I would say that we have to get back to some of the good communications theory that we know about, that in most situations, You have what you call, and some people say 10%, 10%, 80, but I think it's really more 20, 20, 60 anymore. You have 20 of the percent of the people are going to love everything you say and do because it's you. They trust you. They like what you've done in the past. They believe in you and they're supportive. You're going to have 20% of the people who don't like you. And some of our school PR colleagues across the nation need to hear that because they want to be liked. And some of our superintendents do as well. They want to be liked. They feel like that they work very hard to convince people that we're doing noble and wonderful things in public ed. And sometimes even to the point where some of the things we're doing, we try to defend, but also there may be some valid concerns and things that we need to be looking at and ways that we need to evolve and change in education that we might not have done that. But I think that 20% is not going to like you no matter what you do, what you say. And we have spent the last couple of years concentrating on that 20%, when really it's the 60% in the middle who are unsure or undecided. And they are only hearing all of these narratives and they're not necessarily hearing our narrative. I think one of the things that happened during the pandemic, and understandably so, it's not anyone's fault, but we moved from storytelling and sharing all the wonderful things that were happening in public education and the things that really make education the great equalizer and the thing that really gives people hope for the future. We spent a lot of time talking about hand sanitizer and social distancing and safety protocols. And I was in charge of safety, so we had to do that. But it came at a time in our nation when there also was some racial reconciliation that was happening. And there were some very valid calls for change and very valid calls for hard discussions that, quite frankly, some people weren't ready to have. And that's okay, because everybody's at a different place in that journey. And I've said that before in sharing with Inspira. But I also think it's very, very important to remember that you have to tell your own story. And I think we got away from that. We got away from storytelling. And I think we got away from some of that core value messaging and some of the things that we know help people have a sense of belonging, a sense of community, build strong relationships. And we were so concentrated on what the latest news was out of either a governor's office or the CDC or things like that. And we were constantly pivoting, so much so that that has become a word we don't even like anymore. We don't want to pivot. We're tired of pivoting. And I think we got tired. And I think we got, all of us in school communications, we got off our center a little bit and we were focused on survival. And that was what was needed at the time. But I think we have to come out of that. I think we've been at a time, and Susan and I talk about this in our session, The Fires Are Burning and the Waves Are High. And that CESO session has become such a meaningful session, not only for the two of us in our own personal journey, but also in working with school communicators that are at all different parts and in different communities and in different places in their careers. And I think that it really resonates because we try to remind people to go back to the things that we know work: the relationship building, the two-way communication, the face-to-face, the engage, even on social media, and I understand it, but we had to lock things down a lot. There was a lot of bad behavior that was happening on social media, and social media is an amazing tool, but also in the hands of destructive people who want to use it for something that's not good. It can become a great challenge for us. And so a lot of us kind of went into what we call bunker mode. And I think that needs to be a red flag. If you're still in bunker mode at this point and you're not out in your community and having meetings and face-to-face and inviting people into your community, that's where you need to get back to. And you need to think about that. Of course, you want to continue to inform and engage with your 20% of your supporters, but stop spending so much time and energy on the 20% that aren't going to like anything you do. They're not happy people. They're
Right.
just not happy people. They either have personal agendas or something that they're working on. They may be against public ed in the first place. I don't know all of their stories, but I know what happy people look like, and that is not what that 20% looks like. And we really catered our messaging and our responses to that 20%. We need to get back to our 20% of supporters, re-engaging our supporters, reminding them why they love your school district, why they love and support public ed, what it means for to hear about our teachers who are just downright heroes, and our support staff in our school districts, and to hear how education is the great equalizer and is life-changing for children and generations to come, getting them out of cycles of poverty and so many other things we could talk about on the podcast. But we need to get back and re-engage and really inform and take back the narrative for that 60%. Remind them what makes your school district special. What are you doing in your community to serve and take care of children?
And this is the perfect time to hear this message. We're at the end of June. Everybody's hopefully getting time to take a break, take a deep breath, get ready for, the most normal school year that we've had since we started school back in 2019, right? We haven't had one of those school years. And I feel like I've just been to church a little bit, Julie, because you are preaching all the things that we really need to hear, but getting back to that storytelling. And it is so true, because I was there. I mean, we serve 90 school districts, for goodness sakes, for social media. For a long time, social media did have to be about informing. But we've seen that transition, and we have been able to get back into that celebration, into the storytelling. So if you still feel like you're in that, informational age, it's time now to switch back to telling those stories, to re-engage those folks that love you, that are making up the decisions. That's really good advice.
Well, and I think you have to remember all the things that make social media so powerful. The power of a hashtag. Our school safety program here grew following the terrible tragedy of Sandy Hook. And as you know, we have colleagues in Uvalde, consolidated school district right outside of San Antonio, that are hurting in one of the most tragic and horrific ways. It is the second worst school shooting in the nation, and the worst for Texas. And we haven't seen change in the 10 years that we had hoped to see changes. And we're failing our students and our teachers in so many ways in that. And so a lot of people have lost hope. But there are ways to use social media for very positive change. And we have seen it through video and captivating photos and personal stories and experiences of how education and their home school and the teachers in their classrooms have changed the lives of our students. And we have those stories from our alumni and for our graduating seniors. And it's a very exciting time right now for the class of 2022, and telling their story has been powerful. I've been watching photos and videos on social media, and I feel us getting back to some of that storytelling. But even as you said, as we go into the next school year, we have to stop and think about the very important messages, the branding, who we are, what we need people to know. And we can't just be using social media to get out facts and figures and events. We really need to tell those personal stories, and we need to be strategic. And we are our people, I earned my accreditation in public relations, and it's a very powerful time in my career when it started to bring meaning to and structure to some of the things I was already doing, some of the things I learned that I need to be doing. But social media is no different. It is a tool, but it needs to be strategic. You need to think about your messaging. You need to use data. You need to know when's the best time to post. You need to get back to all those things that work in social media. And in some ways, you do need to kind of put up a little bit of, I compartmentalized a lot of the personal attacks and the things, the politics that were happening in our community, because people said very hurtful things. It impacted my family. It was very public. Social media is very public. I tend to lean a little bit to more towards Twitter these days, because Facebook became a place that was not safe for a lot of people to hang out. I hope that changes, but there are There's support. There are school communications groups. There are state chapters have created groups. You've got INSPRA, the INSPRA Connection. There's so many places to go for help. Your organization just is so powerful. And really, even in districts that have very vibrant social media programs, I felt like we had a very strong social media program, but we learned so much from you by partnering with you and bringing you into our district. And I think there are so many resources. You have to really, for lack of a better description, lock arms, find your people, find people you can be authentic with. I like to call them INSPRA loyals. Find those family members in your organization, in your community, whether it's your faith, your family, your friends. You really got to hang on to that. And we do take things personally. And I'm gonna tell you something that someone told me, because my community became a national podcast. There is a playbook for how to take over your school district and how to take over your school board. And we are on page 25 of that. And I don't talk much about that because it's still pretty painful and it's still very public and it's still happening to our community. But I will say that one of the things that was probably the most hurtful was being painted with this broad brush of who people thought you were, what they thought you stood for, what they thought you were doing. A lot of it was misinformation and quite frankly, completely made up for political purposes, following a playbook to take over a school district, not worrying about the casualties or some of the harm that might be done, just the toll it would take on individuals, on families, and really on a whole community. And so while that is still playing out in many communities across not only Texas, but other parts of the nation, I just want to kind of offer hope and a word of encouragement that our school PR professionals are needed now more than ever before. And at a time when they are feeling tired and in many ways frustrated enough to even give up, find a way not to do that. Find a way to, it's cliche, but find your happy place. What makes you happy? There were times that I had to get off of social media, especially during my personal time and my family time. And I really had to take a break, especially from those hate groups and the people that were out there as naysayers against public education, and really lock arms with my INSPRA family, my TSPRA family, all those loyal people that love public ed and are working so hard every day with our teachers. I had to learn to be gracious in a time when I wasn't feeling very much like giving grace. But the very definition of grace is that people don't deserve it. And so I want to encourage people that you are seen, you are valued, what you are doing matters, and keep at it. And if you find yourself in a very unhealthy situation or place, find a new place. There are places out there that really value the work that we're doing. And if you need to find a place where you can belong and you can continue to do that work, I would encourage you to do that. But there is, I think, hope on the horizon. I think that we have a new school year we're coming into, and I just want to encourage people to get back to what they know works. And here's something that I have said over and over again, and you'll hear me say it at INSPRA in July: don't let them change who you are. Because we got some really great people working for the good of all students in public education: teachers, support staff, administrators, coaches, counselors, nurses, people working in the school cafeterias, cleaning and mowing the lawn. It's a team effort. And we have so many amazing people out there. The school PR professionals tugging on the coat strings of their leaders and reminding them, here's what we need to do and why, here's what we think. I think it's important for them not to change who you are. But I also think it's important, the advice I got is that you're not the savior of your community. Not everything it was not all on my shoulders. So I want to also tell our colleagues that, yes, use the power of the hashtag, use video, use captivating photos that tell the story of your students and of your teachers. Use those personal storytelling and experience. Engage, engage, engage. We stopped doing that in a lot of ways. Be gracious and authentic in how you respond to people. Don't paint them with the same brush they try to paint you, that broad brush of and of labeling people and putting them in a group, because I think there are a lot of really wonderful people that are kind of caught up in all the emotion and politics and, quite frankly, the fear mongering that's happening. That's what motivates people to vote. And so that the people in your community that are using politics against the public schools are doing that to try to get the votes, and they don't really care about the casualties and the fallout. So I just want to encourage those out there that are rolling up their sleeves and are tired, but are facing a summer of trying to get ready for another school district. I think that there are some amazing things that are about to happen across the nation, and I can't wait to hear those stories. And I hope to go to social media, because we need to continue to use social media to tell our stories.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, so many good things. Don't let them change who you are. And then also, you're not the savior of your community. I have certainly had conversations with our fellow school PR leaders too, who are just kind of in a bad district, right? And not feel supported. And in some cases, sometimes it is time to just say, hey, maybe there's another opportunity somewhere else. And there always is. So years ago, but way back when I was doing webinars, you did social media ethics,
I
and
did.
you talked all about that. Now you've been through all of this other, all these other experiences. Now you're sharing in a new way as your role with CESO there as a senior strategist, but also is it the water is high and what's the title of your talk?
The fires are burning and the waves are high.
Yes, and Julie and Susan have been doing that presentation across the country. I'm really excited to invite them into our membership group. They'll be doing that as a webinar training in July. I feature different folks each month, leaders from across the country. Really excited for that. And once we do that live, we have that in our archive so people can listen to it. So, Julie was talking a little bit about helping out her community. We do have this membership group, and so check it out. It's a great spot to be connected. Also, your local SPRA chapters, your school public relations, most states have them. And then the national seminar is happening next month in Chicago, and both Julie and I will be there, and we'll be leading some sessions. So consider checking that out as well. Julie, what's the best way for folks to stay connected to you? They may have a question or may want to just be able to stay connected to you. So what's the best way?
Well, I am obviously on social media, and you can find me on Twitter at Julie Thannum. You can also find CESO at the CESO or at CESOCOM, COMM, which stands for our communications division. We are online at theceso.com. We're on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram as at Julie Thannum. I'm not hidden there. I also want to do a plug for the K-12 PR chat. I know that we gave a little bit of what I would call a breather to our kind of overworked and overtired members during the pandemic and the last couple of years. But K-12 PR chat is coming back in a big way. We've got some great chats that are going to happen. And that was my lifeline in a lot of ways to the individuals that I connected with on social media. And so I encourage that. I am on Facebook. You'll see a lot of my Facebook and Instagram is a little bit more of my family and a little bit about who we are, the Thannums. But I try to stay active on Twitter, LinkedIn, and you can always email me at julie.thannum@theceso.com. And I would encourage you to learn more about your services, Andrea, because there are some really great resources that I've benefited from as a member, and some things that you can only get to as a member, right? And so that's a great opportunity for you to grow your network and for you to have support during what is a really difficult time in managing social media and the politics across the nation. But I'm a hopeful person, and I think great things are ahead, and I'm excited and blessed and honored to be working with CESO and some of my INSPIR colleagues there. I didn't even know it existed. And I think sometimes we're on an island and we feel alone and we feel like this has only happened to us. And that's why I just want to remind people you aren't alone. You have network resources, you have all kinds of support, especially those of you in those one-person offices. Connect with one another, and find individuals. And I'm willing at any time to help. And I know a lot of our members across the nation, INSPRA itself, are wanting to really make sure that members are feeling supported and have the resources they need to do this job. You know, I love a league of their own, and you'll see on my Twitter that one of my quotes is, of course it's hard. If it wasn't hard, anybody could do it. It's the hard that makes it great. And I think we need to hang on to that and understand that, yes, we are in a hard profession. Yes, it is very hard times, but that's when we get to shine the brightest. And that's when we have the opportunity to be different and to treat people different than the way we are even being treated right now. At the end of the day, Andrea, I wanted my 3 kids, who are my greatest accomplishments, and my son-in-law, who chose our family. I wanted my 4 kids to see me treat people in a different way than I was being treated.
Mhm.
I think that's important.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, right?
It
And
is.
and and when we can think that way. Just another plug for CESO. You guys are kind of in 15 states, but you work with schools all over, and a lot of different experiences on your team. But specifically, if you are facing some of this divisiveness, it doesn't have to be alone. And so reach out to Julie, reach out to CESO. They've been through this before. They can help you. Especially if you're a one-person shop, or even if you have a small department, it can be really challenging. And so I just don't, just definitely check that out, because sometimes you need that help. So
Yeah, we can even help with a project you've had on the back burner. And so we do project-based support, but we also do ongoing support, whether that's crisis communications, strategic advising, those types of things. But one of the difference I think that I love, and I will do a plug here for just a second, because I didn't know it existed and I didn't know this model could really help school PR people, is we don't just come in and tell you what you need to be doing. We actually roll our sleeves up and we do the work with you and for you. And so we have social media team. We also have graphic designers. We can take a project on for you, or something that you're supposed to be doing that you just haven't gotten to because of all these other priorities. And so that's what I love about CESO, is that we will come in and work alongside you and with you and for you, not just advise you what you should be doing. We'll actually help you do it.
yeah, absolutely. And one of the only company, well, actually the only company that I've had some of the folks that have wanted to work with me for full management that weren't good fits, are perfect for you guys. And so I'm glad to recommend their services. Julie, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Like I said, I really do feel like I've been to church. This is going to be a must listen for school communicators all over, to really get that reset for going in. I think, there are a lot of bad things going on, but like you said, you're a hopeful person. There's good things ahead. Get connected, stay connected with great people. A free way to do that, guys, is through that K-12 PR chat. And that is certainly one spot that I really started when I first started in school PR, because I knew nothing. I knew nobody. And instantly all of those folks are your friends that you can turn to. So that's great. So anything you want to say in closing, Julie, as we wrap up?
I just want to say that none of us do things on our own. We all have mentors and we stand on the shoulders of giants, and we've learned from people. Tim Hensley talked a little bit at the podium at INSPRA one year about reverse mentoring. I learned as much about this next generation of school PR work by some of the most talented people I've ever seen, but they don't always know what they don't know. And so I think it's all of us working together. I just think we need to lock arms. Think we need to get through this difficult time. I hope someday soon we can look back on this and see that we are like refined by fire, that gold comes out pure and better on the other side. And I hope that's what school communications, public education, and all of us will feel like looking back on these difficult times someday
Yeah.
soon.
Yes, me too. Well, thank you. And thank everybody for listening today. We will be back next week with another great guest. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, Julie.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for the opportunity. Bye.